Welcome to my channel. If you've enjoyed watching one or two of our videos and haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button now for more captivating stories like this. Don't miss a single story.
The story begins by revealing that 5,000 years ago, during the Age of Despair, humanity teetered on the edge of extinction. To prevent the collapse of the world, four great heroes emerged to confront Aros, the genesis of evil. Among these heroes was Luna, the elven archmage, also known as the Poet of the Stars. Another was Du, the dwarven master-smith, referred to as the divine blacksmith. The third hero, Aeon, was a beastman warrior, and the wise king, Lindes, who was also a dragon. 5,000 years ago, we witnessed the chaos of the battlefield, where the ground is strewn with countless corpses. We hear Lindes urging a man named Kyle to go on without them. However, Kyle insists they should not speak. Lindes continues, urging Kyle to take their dragon heart and push forward. Kyle replies that he intends to save them and tells them to conserve their energy, but Lindes asserts that it's too late for them. Kyle asks them to stop talking, as he needs to concentrate on healing. In a surprising turn, Lindes reaches into their chest and pulls out their heart, asking Kyle if he remembers their first meeting and their vow to save the world. Kyle bites his lip, calling Lindes a stupid lizard. Lindes apologizes for leaving everything to Kyle as their eyes grow heavy. With their final breath, Lindes passes away. Kyle then begins to recite the names of the four heroes as he reaches for the dragon heart. He starts to imbue it with aura, transforming it as he thanks all the heroes for their presence. Forcefully injecting it into his body, a powerful aura radiates across the battlefield, visible from miles away. Kyle vows that no matter what happens, even if his body burns to ashes, he will keep fighting to honor his friends' memories. His sword begins to glow with aura, and we learn that this is Kyle, the hero of the beginning. He charges into battle, shouting at Aros and leaping toward him for a powerful attack. The scene shifts to a woman recounting the night when the sky echoed with the great sound of explosions. Thanks to the sacrifice of the wise king Lindes, Aros, the genesis of evil, was driven away. Suddenly, a baby cries. A man asks the woman, named Reina, why she is telling the same story for the 100th time. She explains that Leo loves this book the most. We see a little baby in a crib as she prepares to read him, The Heroes of the Beginning, once again. As she reads, the baby starts babbling. She mistakes it for enjoyment, unaware he is actually frustrated that she won't stop reading. Reina continues the tale of 5,000 years ago. The baby questions why she is recounting it, noting that he was the one who defeated Aros and wonders why he is the only one omitted from history. The narrative then shifts to a later time at the Royal School of Diane, where a teacher instructs the students to pay attention. He reminds them that they are in the Age of Heroes, noting that it has been 5,000 years since the hero record first appeared in their world. The lower world has undergone many changes since then. For example, the Royal School of Diane has been chosen to host this year's Lumen entrance examination. The teacher expresses confidence that some among them possess the potential to become heroes who will one day have their names inscribed in the hero record. He's super excited until he hears a student snoring, prompting him to tell the student to wake up. This student is none other than Leo. The teacher remarks to Leo that since he seems to know the course material well enough to fall asleep during lectures, he will pose a question: what ritual was required 5,000 years ago to be regarded as a hero? Leo stands up, asserting that if someone makes a name for themselves, people will worship them on their own. We are formally introduced to him as Leo PLO from the House of PLO. The teacher then asks if anyone else is willing to answer. A student quickly raises his hand and explains that in ancient times, there was no way to gain recognition from the gods, so only holy rituals were used to select heroes. He cites the ritual of blood as a prime example. The teacher and the other students applaud, acknowledging Gvan, the greatest magic genius of their kingdom, who hails from the House of Traton. The teacher expresses high hopes for Gvan in the upcoming Lumen exam, while Gulen laughs at Leo, believing he has been upstaged. Meanwhile, Leo reads his book, remarking that meeting gods was incredibly easy and didn't require a holy ritual. The book discusses a miracle gifted by the gods to the lower world to honor the great heroes who faced Aros, which is the hero record that his mother often read to him. He closes the book, pondering why he is treated as if he doesn't exist. Later in class, students rush to the windows, excitedly announcing the arrival of the emblem of the Zinger clan. They watch as a group parades down the halls, fawning over a lady named Celia Zinger. An announcement over the intercom instructs all students to gather in the auditorium for an assembly as the Zinger clan visits the school. Gulen asks Leo if he plans to try to get noticed by the Zingers, doubting they would care about him at all. Leo replies that he's not interested in such things and is going straight home. Gulen, feeling embarrassed, insists he's not interested either and is merely going to check out Celia as a fellow rival. Some time later, we see Leo training with a bow staff in hand and a wooden sword on the floor. After finishing his session, he reflects that while diligent training is part of it, his current body is far better than the one he had in his previous life. As he heads outside into the courtyard, a woman asks what he's so deep in thought about, preparing to launch a surprise attack from the side. Leo manages to block it and steps back, incredulous that she would ambush him like that. She explains that it's been a while since their last spar and insists that his talent cannot be lackluster for Lumen, emphasizing that this is his final test. Raising her sword, she swings down, and he successfully blocks her strike. She suggests that she could put more power into it. They begin trading blows in the middle of the courtyard, with Leo commenting that she is showing him too much tough love. We are introduced to his mother, Reina, who counters that while he calls it tough love, he is clearly blocking everything she throws at him. As she prepares for an even stronger attack, she quickly realizes she is putting too much force behind it. As the sword comes straight toward Leo's head, she begins to panic, worrying about what will happen if he can't dodge it. However, he effortlessly sidesteps the blade, allowing it to graze his hair. Spotting his opportunity, he lunges forward with a counterattack, much to her surprise as she finds herself on the floor. Concerned, he asks if she's okay, but she wonders how far his talents truly extend. She inquires if he is still determined to attend Lumen, the human hero academy, believing it might be the only place that holds records of him as a hero. Leo expresses his desire to uncover why his name isn't listed anywhere. His mother reminds him that members of the Zinger clan are visiting Delan and will be staying at their mansion. Leo asks why they are staying there, and she explains that he should get to know them. She plans to ask their vice-patriarch, Zeiss, if he would consider teaching Leo a technique, which could help him become strong enough to gain admission to Lumen next year. Leo, however, seems reluctant about the hassle of learning the technique and smirks while sighing, insisting that he intends to be admitted this year instead. A carriage then arrives at the estate, and a woman asks why her uncle wants to stay there. Stepping out of the carriage, we are introduced to Celia Zinger, known as the Sword Princess. She expresses her desire to focus on the Lumen entrance exam and questions why they came to such a small, remote family. Zeiss calls out to her, asking if she's not curious about Leo since he doesn't seem to have any interest in their clan. Celia dismisses him, noting that he still can't even use AA yet, implying he can't be that impressive. Zeiss laughs, suggesting she doesn't quite understand. Later that evening, they meet Reina and Zabos, who express their honor at having the Zingers stay over. We are also introduced to Leo's father, Ade, the patriarch of the House of PLO. Zeiss then tells Celia that she should show them respect. She places her hand over her chest and offers a formal introduction, thanking them for hosting them for the week. Reina replies that it's nice to meet her, thinking that Celia resembles her father and brother. Celia soon realizes that Reina has black hair and red eyes, asking if she is of their lineage as well. Zeiss informs her that Reina is actually her aunt, which surprises her. As their luggage is carried to the room, Zeiss talks to Reina about their recent visit to the Royal School of Delan, describing the chaos of students rushing to see them. He notes that Leo seemed to have gone home, showing no interest at all. Reina laughs, commenting that it must be quite a blow to the pride of the Zingers, apologizing if her son appears disrespectful and explaining that he is only focused on training. Zeiss then asks what kind of kid Leo is, and Reina responds that he possesses unbelievable talent. Zeiss questions whether she genuinely believes Leo is worthy enough to inherit the flames of deserting Earth. Reina asserts that she's not merely saying this because he's her son, he truly is worthy. As we see Leo training with Celia, Zeiss remarks that if Celia is willing to make such a statement, he is genuinely interested. However, he insists on testing Leo himself to verify her claims. Meanwhile, we catch a glimpse of Leo pushing Celia back during their training. A flashback reveals Leo meditating in the training area, with AA floating around his wrist. He opens his eyes and looks down, stating that it's about time, he now has a vessel capable of holding everything. He reflects on why he hadn't learned aura yet, accepting it would cause his body to specialize to match that aura, and he would lose the chance to accumulate mana and soul energy. In his past life, if he could have fully controlled that power and presence, he wouldn't have left behind a seedling of disaster. He thinks that first comes aura, but before he can finish his thought, Celia approaches him, asking if he is Leo. He turns around, confused, and sees her standing there with pride. She comments that he appears to have a decent grasp of the basics and offers to guide him in swordsmanship, hoping to earn some approval from her aunt. Leo inquires who she is, and she introduces herself as Celia, saying the world calls her the Sword Princess. He asks if that's really the case and thanks her for considering him, but he insists that he has no intention of receiving guidance from someone of lesser skill. Celia, taken aback, asks if he is really claiming to be stronger than her. He concedes that in a fight to the death, she would likely be stronger since he can't use aura, but sparring with just swordsmanship is another matter. Her eyes narrow with anger as she turns to the practice swords, grabbing one off the wall. She challenges him to spar, stating that if he believes he will surpass her once he learns aura, she will teach him the harshness of reality. If she wins, he will become her servant. Leo asks what he will get if he wins, and she points her sword at him, considering, before declaring that she will become his servant instead. He picks up his sword from the floor, eager to start immediately, and leaps forward, swinging at her. Celia blocks his attack and acknowledges that his speed is decent but insists it won't be enough to take her down. Leo then raises his hands for an overhead strike, prompting her to wonder about his strength as she is forced to distance herself. He crashes into the ground, shattering it, and doesn't give her a moment to recover, launching another attack. Celia realizes she can't dodge as he swings toward her head, and they hear a clash. He questions why she is using aura, thinking they were supposed to be sparring with just swordsmanship. Celia explains it was merely a reflex. He dismisses her concern, confident he will win regardless. She retorts that controlling aura is a vast difference, akin to heaven and earth. In response, he removes the weighted bracelet from his wrist and throws it to the ground, asking if she wants to test it. Celia can't believe he was using a weighted bracelet the entire time. With a smirk, Leo dashes forward again, this time completely shattering her aura armor. As she begins to lose consciousness, she asks how someone like him can exist, calling him a crazy bastard for his overwhelming strength. We then see Reina and Zeiss walking through the courtyard. Reina spots Leo and calls him over to introduce himself to a guest staying at their household. Leo approaches and bows his head to Zeiss, who informs him, extending his hand for a shake, that he is his uncle. After they shake hands, Reina asks if Leo has met Celia yet. When Leo thinks about it, he turns to see her being carried out on a stretcher, with guards shouting her name and urging to get her to the infirmary. Zeiss inquires what happened, and one of the guards begins to explain. Zeiss can't believe Leo defeated Celia without having learned aura and tells him that's quite impressive. Leo responds that she underestimated him. Zeiss then mentions something about a bet, asking for clarification. Leo explains that the loser was to become the winner's servant, and that Celia will be his maid for the entire upcoming week. Zeiss emphasizes the importance of keeping one's word but reminds Leo that she is from the Zinger family, and he cannot order her to do maid work. He hopes Leo will reconsider the promise and instead accept something as a reward. Leo firmly refuses, stating that this was a wager between him and Celia, and as long as she retains the Zinger name, she must take responsibility. Zeiss asks if Leo truly wants to proceed with this, even though he is offering him the Zinger breathing method. Leo believes that preventing Celia from being humiliated holds no value in terms of learning. Zeiss responds by stating that he is declaring Leo will use the direct lineage of the Zingers as a servant and that the Zinger aura method is worthless. Leo expresses his satisfaction in hearing this. Zeiss then questions whether Leo thinks such a declaration is disrespectful. Leo asserts that he has no intention of insulting the Zingers. He explains that if Zeiss intended to reward him for defeating Celia by teaching him the breathing method, he would gladly accept. However, since it was framed as a gift to alleviate her loss, Zeiss believes that if Celia hadn't let her guard down, she wouldn't have lost to him. Leo adds that even if she had fought earnestly, he still would have won. Zeiss smiles, finding Leo to be an interesting child and wishing someone like him were part of his family. He instructs a guard to send Celia to the maid's quarters. Calling out to Leo, he tells him that in an unofficial capacity, he can comfortably call him uncle, placing a hand on his shoulder. As Leo walks away, Zeiss turns to Reina, mentioning that he thought she wanted him to teach Leo their breathing technique. He then states his intention to ask their older brother to convince him to teach Leo the phoenix breath technique instead. The scene shifts to a bedroom, where we see Celia's flushed face. She declares that she is the maid in charge of him for the next week, now fully dressed and looking quite embarrassed. Leo tells her that the outfit suits her, admitting he never imagined she would look so good in maid's clothes since she usually wears something fancy. Celia acknowledges her beauty but adds that if he puts it that way, she can't help but feel annoyed. He clarifies that he didn't mean to upset her and mentions having a friend who praises beauty excessively, suggesting that his habits may have rubbed off on him. We then hear the voice of Dueno, proclaiming that the beauty of the Eternal is unparalleled, and if peace returns to the world, he will spend his life spreading beauty to everyone. Celia sighs, commenting on how Dueno has a cool friend who knows how to appreciate and praise beauty. She notes that while Leo downplays it, Dueno's honesty can be a bit much, especially since Lines is more beautiful than anyone and Luna, for the sake of art, once begged them to pose as nude models, which resulted in them beating him up. Celia wonders what Leo is reading, thinking it might be a training book. He tells her it's just a book he read a lot in his youth, The Great Hero at the beginning. She recalls having read it frequently when she was 5 and questions why he's reading a children's book. Curiously, she walks over to his bookshelf and observes that he seems to really like The Great Hero of the beginning. She notes that any average researcher of The Great Hero would likely be impressed by how neatly he organizes everything, but she notices an unusual number of books about Kyle. Leo explains that among all the deeds of the great heroes, many accomplishments are difficult to attribute to specific individuals, and he believes those achievements are likely his. Celia challenges this, asserting that Kyle is merely a scammer trying to claim the hero's accomplishments. Leo double-checks if she's referring to Kyle, and she confirms that's the general consensus, admitting she feels the same way. Leo is astonished that people think so poorly of him and suggests they go eat breakfast and then train. Celia expresses a desire to train with him, claiming she wants to uncover the truth behind his strength. Leo warns her it may be hard for her to keep up, asking if she will be okay. She becomes irritated, reminding him that she is asserting herself. We then see her on the ground, and Leo explains that when her stamina reaches its limit, her reaction speed slows, creating gaps in her movements, just like what happened now. She questions why he would push his body like this, asking if it's genuinely helpful for training. Leo responds that young people today are weaker compared to the past, and training techniques have become very challenging. He explains that aura allows one to train their body, and if the body is weak, it's pointless. Celia stands up, trembling, and asks what he means by weak. As she starts to vomit, she points her sword at him, declaring she's ready and demanding he not underestimate her. She charges directly at him, but Leo swings his sword downward, knocking hers from her hand and causing her to fall back. Sliding across the ground, she wonders why she can't win. He approaches her, stating it must be tough and asking if she agrees. He instructs her to extend her hand and hands her the bracelet. Celia thanks him, but then collapses under its weight. He tells her that starting tomorrow, she will wear it while they train. The next day in the courtyard, we see Celia gasping for breath, telling him to stop, as Zeiss watches from the background. He remarks that this will be a beneficial experience for her before heading to Lumen. He comments that it might be good for her pride to be humbled at least once. Then, he calls out to Leo, who walks over to see what Zeiss wants. Zeiss mentions he's considering asking the Patriarch for permission to inherit the Phoenix breath. Leo is surprised and wonders if Zeiss is referring to the family's origin for the aura technique, recalling that only those recognized within the family can inherit it. Celia interjects, saying that her father won't easily accept it. Zeiss clarifies that's why there's a condition: Leo must pass the Lumen entrance exam. Celia warns him that the exam is a real fight, and since Leo can't use aura, it would be too dangerous for him. Leo smirks, acknowledging he lacks experience in actual combat, but points out that he has defeated Aros and many other demons in his past life. Zeiss asks for Leo's thoughts on the matter, and Leo admits he doesn't know how his parents will react. Zeiss assures him they've already agreed, and Leo responds that he's on board. Zeiss smirks, saying he expected Leo would want to take the exam all along. Leo then tells Celia it's time to continue, and she runs after him, questioning if he really thinks she won't be able to keep up. The scene shifts to a week later, where students are preparing for the Lumen entrance exam. They murmur about Celia's presence and wonder who is accompanying her. She asks Leo if he's nervous, and he replies that he isn't at all, suggesting she should fix her way of speaking since she just called him young master, forgetting that she is no longer his maid. Golivan then calls out to her, surprised to see Leo beside her. He comments on Leo's inability to handle aura and questions why he's there before quickly shifting his demeanor to ask Celia how she has been. Both Celia and Leo seem annoyed by his presence. Golivan introduces himself to Celia, stating that he greeted her the last time she was at school and claims to be Deland's greatest magic genius. Celia apologizes, stating she has no idea who he is, and grabs Leo's hand, indicating that they are leaving. As they walk away, someone else calls out Celia's name, and 2 white-haired students approach them. Celia appears surprised, while Leo wonders about her reaction. They are introduced as Abut and Chelsea from the Lumen family, who tell Celia that it's been a long time. Leo asks who they are, and she explains that they are the Lumen siblings from the same heroic lineage as the Lord of the Empire. She insists that they cannot lose to them in the exam, as the Zinger clan must not be defeated by the Lumen family. Leo reminds her that he is from the PLO family. Abut greets her, mentioning it has been quite a while, and she agrees. He then questions who is next to her, and she introduces Leo as a noble from the kingdom of Delat. Abut dismisses him as a small fry, prompting Leo to glare at him. Abut then turns away, confidently stating that the top spot will surely be his and tells his sister Chelsea that they should get going. Celia, feeling annoyed, declares that she's going to make sure to thoroughly crush them. A man then comments that it seems everyone has gathered, prompting everyone to look up at him. We are introduced to a professor at Lumen Academy named Alba Zarin, who has a striking resemblance to Gojo. Celia is surprised and asks if that's the sorcerer of man, while Leo questions who he is. She explains that he's a hero listed in the records. Leo concludes that he must be a hero of this era, then looks back up at Alba, noticing the mana in his left eye. Alba begins explaining that there are two types of trials, one-on-one combat and monster subjugation, with each person taking turns. He expresses his disdain for the method, finding it tedious, and states he doesn't want to deal with that boring approach. He then moves his coat aside to pull out a book, the Hero Record. Using magic, he transports the students to his world, revealing the first chapter titled, The Wild Forest. A giant magic circle appears beneath all the students, and Alba's hands glow as words fly out of the book. He declares that he detests inefficiency and decides to combine everything and proceed at once. As the students are blinded by the light, Leo recalls his teacher mentioning that the hero record isn't just a historical account, its true value lies in its ability to manifest the hero's world, which contains the experiences of past heroes. Moreover, by accessing these worlds, one can inherit the powers of previous heroes. Leo had thought it was some sort of hero training system, but when he opens his eyes, he finds himself in Alba's world, now introduced to the wild forest. Alba explains the rules. They simply need to survive, whether by joining forces or eliminating one another. Those who wish to forfeit can break the orb they are holding. Leo surveys the area while the others panic, noting that the place looks familiar. He starts walking forward, mentioning that this used to be an elven forest before it was tainted by the witch queen Salat. Some students express their fear, insisting this is too scary and wanting to return. They assume it's an illusion and dismiss it as pathetic, but Leo corrects them, stating that while this world is based on the examiner's memories, everything that happens here is real, and the dangers can genuinely kill someone. He suddenly senses a threat and sidesteps a surprise attack, an arrow striking the ground before him. Emerging from the brush is a familiar voice, Chelsea. She expresses her delight at the chance to eliminate someone from the PLO family. Leo introduces himself as a member of the PLO family, and Chelsea responds by releasing her aura, noting she saw him with Celia earlier. She then summons a weapon called the Wind Lu. Leo remarks that this spell definitely didn't exist in the past, but the basics seem unchanged as he prepares his blade. Chelsea laughs, observing that he still looks relaxed even with her right in front of him. She begins twirling her sickle in the air before launching it directly at Leo with incredible speed. He effortlessly swings his blade, striking the sickle and sending it crashing to the ground behind him. Chelsea asks how he managed to block it, noting she didn't sense any aura and wonders if he possesses an aura attribute that's hard to detect. Leo sighs, stating that her attack was too simple and suggests they join forces instead, since whoever survives the longest earns the most points. As a sorceress, she needs to pass at least one test. Chelsea laughs, explaining that, unfortunately, she is a battle mage. Since he called her last attack simple, she's eager to see how he handles this next one. Leo clarifies that he meant the wind magic was straightforward compared to its potential. She questions whether he really thinks he can lecture her on magic, considering she is a direct descendant of the Lumen family. She then launches another wind sickle along with a wind arrow, but suddenly loses sight of him, wondering what's happening since there's no trace of mana. Leo has already closed the gap, appearing barehanded and ready to unleash some serious moves. As her sickle floats through the air, Chelsea drops to her knees, coughing. He calmly tells her he's going to politely ask her to join forces with him once more. Meanwhile, outside, a screen begins to form, and everyone is buzzing with excitement to watch the exam. When the screen connects, it shows Chelsea tied to a tree, with Leo holding the ropes and starting a campfire, looking like a complete villain. Later that night, the fire is lit, and Chelsea wakes up to see it burning below her, beginning to panic. He asks if she's going to cooperate, and she defiantly replies that she doesn't need anyone but her brother. She attempts to cast another wind sickle, but a red magic circle on her wrist prevents her from using any magic. He informs her that it's a skill designed to restrict magic, but she insists it won't last long due to his limited mana. Chelsea claims she doesn't need magic to escape, but Leo wonders if she thinks he would let her focus on that while he tightens the ropes. She screams for him to wait, saying it's too hot as the fire starts to singe her skirt. He tells her to cooperate, and she reluctantly agrees. He demands she swear on her family name, and she yells that she will. Leo releases the rope, remarking that she's far too easy to manipulate. As she begins to fall off the pole, she closes her eyes in fear. When she opens them again, she finds him carrying her and saying it's nice to meet her. Back in the screening room, everyone watches the fights, and Alba comments that none of the competitors meet the standards needed to fight each other, calling them foolish. He notes that the only ones getting straight to the point are Celia and Abut. He believes the public's future will be bright as he sees both Leo and Chelsea teaming up. He observes Leo cutting down an ogre and concludes that while the fire stunt was immature, getting Chelsea to cooperate earns him a passing grade. Although he lacks the power and grace of Celia and Abut, Leo certainly proves to be an unexpected dark horse. A wind arrow pierces straight through the monster's chest as Leo swiftly decapitates it, causing it to collapse to the ground. Chelsea remarks that working alongside a knight makes things quite comfortable for her, then inquires about the aura he's using, noting she can't detect any mana from it. He replies that he doesn't know how to use aura, prompting her to ask how he managed that without it. Leo explains that, like anything, a solid foundation is crucial. As they're observed from the forest, Chelsea notices a presence, and Leo asks how important she thinks that foundation is. She glares at him and begins casting a spell called Windbreaker toward whatever is watching, eliminating it instantly. She quips that it's insolent for him to speak of magic in front of a Lumen. Leo states that she has power, but she used it incorrectly. Growing annoyed, Chelsea stops as Leo extends his hand, telling her not to take another step. He crouches down, and she comments that they look like mummies. He mentions having seen things that leave victims like that before, and now he understands the conditions for passing this test. Suddenly, his instincts kick in, and he grabs Chelsea, diving to the side to protect her. Nearby, some students discuss needing to eliminate Chelsea first, considering Leo a nobody. Among them is Gullivan, the third-rate villain, who orders his group to attack together as they charge at Leo. Leo's eyes narrow as he punches one of the attackers square in the face, knocking him out instantly. Both Chelsea and Gullivan are surprised, with Chelsea's heart racing. Leo instructs her to watch his back. Gullivan, frustrated, asks his lackeys what they're waiting for as they continue to charge. Leo begins to release his aura, and we see Gullivan fleeing in sheer panic while his companions engage Leo, calling him a coward. Gullivan insists he can't go out like this and needs to find another party as he runs away. Celia spots him and tells Abut that they should head in that direction. They both display shocked expressions upon finding Leo, Chelsea, and the other students, who are taking quick little naps. Chelsea joyfully runs to her brother, and Celia asks why they're together. Leo explains that he suggested they cooperate, to which Celia responds that there's no way that stubborn girl agreed to it. He smiles, stating that he convinced her in a very friendly way. As Leo picks up one of the students, Chelsea asks why he's helping them. He tells them they don't need to fight anymore, they can just beat this world together. They ask what he means by beat the world, and Leo points out the anomaly in the wild forest, indicating the corpses whose moisture seems to have been drained. He wonders where all the other monsters are. Celia reflects that he's right, it feels like the monsters are afraid of something. Leo concludes that a high-tier monster must have appeared, scaring off the others. Abut acknowledges this, recalling that Alba's first feat involved defeating a high-tier monster. Suddenly, a chill runs down their spines as they sense an ominous aura emanating from the woods in front of them, causing them all to freeze in fear. Leo declares that it has finally revealed itself, shifting back to Gullivan. He walks through the forest with his staff glowing, determined to ensure that Leo fails, no matter what it takes. Suddenly, he spots someone lying on the ground and kneels beside the corpse. Almost immediately, something begins dripping onto his staff, and he feels it on his head, paralyzed with fear. When he looks up, he sees a giant spider preparing to devour him. Meanwhile, at the academy, Alai observes the exam. Some students discuss the effort they've put in, but Alba informs them that around 500 have failed so far. Another teacher suggests that despite this, he needs to select about 100, just like other regions, as only 50 students remain in the test. Alba responds that he's willing to fail them all if they don't meet the standards, explaining that Headmaster Callan put him in charge of the test knowing he would do this. A true hero can only be found in difficult times, and although Leo may have noticed the anomaly in the forest, that doesn't guarantee he can overcome it. As they all start running toward something, some students complain that it's too dark to see anything, but Celia spots something ahead and tells them to prepare. She channels aura to the tip of her blade, illuminating the darkness to reveal Gullivan trapped inside the spider's mouth. She wonders what kind of nightmare they are witnessing. Abut concludes that this must be the source of everything and begins to channel a magic spell. Leo interrupts him, urging Gullivan to snap out of it and break the crystal. Annoyed but reluctantly complying, Gullivan breaks the crystal, teleporting himself out of the world and leaving a yellow trail from the spider's mouth. Abut resumes casting his spell, called Wind F, which starts to stab the monster repeatedly. However, it's not deep enough to kill it, and they all look surprised, except for Leo, who expected the outcome. He identifies the creature as the spider princess tarantula. One of the students leaps at it with his halberd, taunting it to eat this, only to be swatted away like a fly, landing in the bushes behind them. Celia declares her intent to finish it off in one blow, channeling aura onto her blade again and using an ability called prominence. She fires an aura beam directly through the spider princess's skull, but it instantly regenerates. She exclaims in disbelief, while Abut points out the stark difference in destructive power between a mage and a knight. He then casts another spell called Raw Fall, which swirls above him, careful to avoid catching the others in its path. When he unleashes it, it successfully wounds the tarantula all over, but he realizes it will take more than that. As he contemplates, the spider princess leaps into the air, launching an attack. In a panic, Chelsea casts Windbreaker to protect her brother, but he still sustains injuries, though they are not fatal. He regroups with the others, and the hero student from earlier remarks on the monster's incredible regeneration, noting it has already fully healed from Abut's attack. Leo explains that it's the daughter of Salat, the queen of Tartarus, and a monster within Erebus's army that devastated the elven forest. They are all taken aback upon hearing the name Tartarus. Leo explains that the mana in Alba's left eye indeed belonged to the fairy king. The tarantula ruled over the cursed wild forest, destroyed the elven forest, and even devoured the right hand of the fairy king who dared to confront her. He believed Luna had killed it, but it seems the fairy king's hand, which contained the ring of life, the source of infinite life energy, saved her. Abut asserts that if defeating the monster is the key to passing the test, he will do it. Celia questions his confidence as they both unleash combo attacks on the spider princess, but it consumes their strikes without even dodging, simply regenerating each time. Leo warns them that it's pointless, they will only exhaust their mana since the spider keeps healing through their damage due to the strange green aura surrounding it. Celia asks for his suggestion, and he tells them they need to work together. Abut refuses, insisting he will be the top scorer, and Celia claims the same. Leo warns that if they don't collaborate, they won't be able to defeat the monster, and all of them will fail. Hearing this, they both freeze. Abut argues that even if they team up, it will take time to set up a killing blow, and no one except the two of them can stall the creature long enough. Celia realizes he's right, and even Chelsea comes to the same conclusion. Leo volunteers to take on the task, but Celia protests that it's suicidal since he can't use aura. He assures them he can buy them 5 minutes. Abut questions what the plan will be if the attack fails. Turning back with a smile, Leo picks up the hero from earlier's halberd, stating he doesn't think that will happen, as fire and wind have always complemented each other. Celia and Abut exchange glances, acknowledging that he's correct. As the spider princess leaps at Leo, he sighs, remarking that this reminds him of old times. He has already severed a couple of the spider princess's legs and continues his onslaught, cutting them off one by one. He notes that it's been a while since he fought a monster from Tartarus and even manages to land a hit on its head. The scene shifts to a small elven child sprinting through the forest, only to become ensnared in some webs, crying out for help. As a tarantula approaches its next victim, the child calls for their mother. We hear a woman's voice commanding the tarantula to back off. When the child opens their eyes, they see a bright light as Luna enters the forest. She questions the tarantula's audacity to invade their land and harm one of their own. With a wave of her aura, she sends the creature fleeing, but she doesn't stop there. Casting magic from her staff, she unleashes a massive attack combining light and electricity. Kyle observes, remarking on the far-reaching influence of Erebus as he approaches the elven boy, asking if he is alright while removing the webs. Back in the present, Leo ponders something, suggesting that they might be at their limit without using aura. He calls out to Chelsea, who is still adapting to the situation, urging her to use wind magic to hurl the surrounding weapons at him. As he dodges another attack from the tarantula, she expresses concern that he might get hurt while moving quickly. Leo reassures her, saying he'll catch the weapons, insisting she act without worry. Chelsea begins to channel her magic, asking which weapons he wants, to which he replies, all of them. Her magic lifts the weapons into the air, and Leo identifies a scimitar and a bastard sword among them. He leaps up to grab the two weapons, declaring to the tarantula that they are just getting started. As he dashes back in, he slices off the tips of the tarantula's legs repeatedly. When his weapons break, he tells Chelsea to send in the next volley, and she complies, launching a knife, a spear, and an axe. Leo continues to skillfully wield the weapons until they break, repeating the cycle. Chelsea notes that he should be their age, yet he appears almost godlike as he faces the Spider Queen with such a variety of armaments. Even Celia and Abad are captivated, with Abad remarking that Leo is not just a small fry. With a cut on his cheek, Leo smiles, affirming he still has his senses. If he can't defeat a creature like this, the others will mock him from the afterlife. He tightens his grip on his blade and charges in again, only to be informed by Chelsea that was the last weapon. Celia interrupts, announcing that she has completed her preparations for a powerful attack. A massive spiral of flames erupts as she and Abad create a fire tornado, burning the tarantula to ash, unable to regenerate. Finally, the ring falls from its stomach onto the ground. Albi's world is cleared, at least the prologue is, and Celia collapses in relief, amazed that Leo managed to hold off the monster for 5 minutes. She goes to commend him, but Chelsea interrupts, exclaiming how incredible he was, likening him to a hero from stories. Clearly taken by her feelings, she admits it. Recognizing her desire to become a battle mage, she expresses her eagerness for him to teach her more about close-range combat. Celia begins to experience PTSD, expressing her hope that Chelsea can truly experience Leo's training at least once. Leo then bends down to pick up a ring, wondering if it's the one he suspects. Suddenly, a small fairy appears before him as the ring emits a golden light. This fairy seems to be Prince Sid from the flashback. Leo asks Sid if he remembers him, introducing himself as Kyle. Sid nods and smiles before returning to the ring. Leo remarks that Sid has become the Fairy King and that, thanks to the treasure Albi found, he has recovered the Eye of Mana. At that moment, an announcement comes over the intercom, indicating that the countdown for the return to the testing ground is beginning. The world around them starts to shatter as they are gradually transported back to their realm. A voice tells Leo that his reward for completing the challenge is the Fairy King's pledge. Leo feels a sense of dimensional distortion and recognizes someone, though their face remains hidden. He is then pulled back to reality. Meanwhile, in a tall building, a man comments that the exam in the Western Territory has concluded. This man is introduced as Callan Bedian, the principal of Lumen Academy and a swordmaster. An assistant questions if it's really over, noting that other territories still have exams pending, and they wonder how many students Albi has passed. Callan speculates that, considering Albi's reputation, a significant number would pass, around 40 students. The assistant asks if that's a lot, to which Callan replies that he expected only about 10 and is pleased with the outcome. The assistant guesses that Celia and Abad are likely at the top, but Callan mentions he heard it was tough to choose, and someone was recommended as the freshman representative. Surprised, the assistant asks if it was Celia or Abad, but Callan reveals it was someone he had never heard of. Meanwhile, the students cheer for Celia and Abad, as they are credited with defeating Tarantula. Albi, however, has a different thought. He recommends Leo as the freshman representative for the KN division. Callan is taken aback, having never expected Albi to speak so highly of a student, and he wonders what kind of person Leo is, noting he possesses the potential to be a hero. The scene shifts to a bathhouse, where Leo reflects that pain like this requires care and time. Relaxing in the bath, he submerges his head underwater, recalling the figure who mentioned the Fairy King's pledge. He muses that typically, clearing a living hero's world doesn't yield a reward, yet he received one. Just then, his mother enters the room, asking if he knows why she was expelled from the house of Zinger. He has no idea, and she explains that while rescuing a comrade, she lost the flames of Zerdinger, but she has no regrets about her choice. She encourages him to use his power and talent for a noble cause and congratulates him on his acceptance to Lumen Academy. The scene transitions again to a warp gate above the city, where Callan is located. A voice informs him that he has arrived in Lamaria City and advises him to ensure he has collected all his belongings before exiting the gate. Leo takes in the stunning scenery of the city, which looks incredibly cool, with a castle visible in the distance. He remarks that this is the center of the world, realizing that the castle is actually Lumen Academy. Zeiss then approaches him, asking how the past month has been and congratulating him on passing the exam. Leo expresses his gratitude but inquires about Zeiss's presence. Zeiss explains that their house has been embroiled in a never-ending debate for the last month and asks Leo if he's aware of the situation regarding the Phoenix Breath. Leo learns that while Zeiss's elder sister is no longer part of the house, he is still her son, and the elders were impressed that he passed the Western exam. Zeiss hands Leo a subspace key, instructing him to open it. Leo follows his directions, twisting the key in the air, and it immediately releases flames. A large book materializes before him, opening with enough heat to make him sweat, but he finds the pages empty. Zeiss tells him he needs to stain the pages with a drop of his blood. In typical anime fashion, Leo bites his thumb, causing it to bleed, and pours the blood over the book. The flames subside, transforming into a warm golden aura. Zeiss informs him that only he can read this book, and while learning the secrets of the Zingers won't be easy, he believes Leo will master it quickly. He pats Leo on the shoulder, congratulating him on becoming a member of the house. The scene shifts to a clothing store where Leo is looking around, noting that this is where Celia wanted to meet him. A woman accidentally bumps into him, dropping her books on the floor. Startled, she quickly apologizes, hurrying off. Leo notices something on the ground and picks it up. It's her student ID. Her name is Chloe Muller, and she's a freshman at Lumen Academy. Entering the shop, Leo hears Celia asking why he took so long, reminding him that they need to get his uniform, textbooks, and more. He tells her he met with Uncle Zeiss, and she excitedly asks how it went. Leo holds out his hand, igniting a flame, his eyes glowing with fiery aura as he shows off the phoenix breath in the store, which seems risky. Celia drops her bags in shock, incredulous that it took him just an afternoon to learn a technique that took her 3 weeks to grasp, leaving her to wonder what he truly is. They head to the port, where students are preparing to board a ship. A man approaches the group, introducing himself as Professor Analan, who is in charge of the freshman night class. He informs them that they will be departing for Lumen soon and directs them to board the ship, revealing his title as Glacier Knight. As the ship sets sail, Leo and Celia explore, and a man calls out to them, referring to them as a couple and asking if they have a moment to chat. Celia becomes visibly angry as the man introduces himself as K. Thomas from the Kingdom of Moira. He reveals that he's an alchemist who sells everything from potions to weapons, encouraging them to reach out if they need anything while in school. Leo finds him intriguing, takes his business card, and introduces himself. Carr recognizes K. Thomas's origin, asking if that means he passed the Western exam, which he calls impressive. Leo questions if he's the only one who finds the situation odd, noting how peaceful it feels, which seems uncanny. Celia suggests it's just a warm welcome for the freshmen who passed the exam, but Leo can't shake his unease, glancing over at Carr and doubting they would be rough with students before orientation. Just then, the ship begins to shake, and Leo remains the only one steady on his feet. He comments that this is precisely what he expected, as a giant tentacle emerges from the ocean and crashes down in front of Carr, knocking him to the ground. Students begin begging Professor Ree for help, but he casually swirls his wine, stating that as students of Lumen Academy, they need to handle danger on their own. A massive kraken-like creature looms over the ship as panic ensues, causing people to drop their food. Leo springs into action, severing one of the kraken's tentacles and telling Celia to stay calm. She retorts that he should focus on himself while she imbues her sword with heat. However, a tentacle approaches from behind for a surprise attack. The kraken retracts its tentacles only to return with a huge splash. Celia screams as Leo explains that this is typical kraken behavior, reacting to heat with water spray, which annoys her. Suddenly, one of the students is lifted by his foot, prompting Leo and Celia to run toward the kraken, cutting off its tentacle and allowing the student to fall safely back onto the ship. Carr watches from under a table, commenting that it's expected of Celia, the top scorer, but he's perplexed by Leo's incredible strength. Just then, a frozen piece of tentacle nearly crushes him, and he shouts for someone to watch where they're throwing debris. Leo recognizes Chloe, the girl he bumped into earlier, as she floats in the air, using ice magic against the kraken. She tells Carr to stay back if he can't defend himself, and Carr sighs, remarking that the strong never care if the weak get caught in the chaos and wonders how he even got into the academy. Another piece of debris falls, revealing the Lowland siblings, Abad and Chelsea. Abad rushes off, telling Celia that the competition isn't over, while Celia sighs, feeling the same way. Chelsea, however, is distracted by Leo, smiling before turning away, leaving him curious about her intentions. He pours himself another glass of wine, noting that there are plenty of monsters in the lake leading to Lumen Academy, and the kraken is perfect for a welcoming party. As expected, the captains start to distinguish themselves, Chen Shah from the east, Celia and Abad from the west, Chloe Muller from the north, Walden Medan from the south, and Duran Moira from the central region, all of whom are excellent freshmen this year. As they work together to defeat the kraken, Chen takes a large sip, noting that there's one student who impresses him the most, the unknown freshman. He observes Leo's swordsmanship, remarking on his efficiency and how it seems like he can predict the kraken's movements. Smiling, Chen looks forward to seeing Leo in night studies and anticipates this year's students. They finally arrive at Lumen Academy. Some students, like Carr, are on their hands and knees, feeling sick from using up all the potions they brought. He jumps off the ship, declaring they'll need to get accustomed to crossing the lake regularly. Now, they can head to the entrance ceremony. Next, we see the Elra training grounds at Lumen Academy, resembling a massive track. Other students watch the exam, hoping for some exciting performances. The ceremony begins, instructing students to line up by region, with the top scorers at the front. The headmaster is set to say a few words. Callan reappears, stating that if they dream of becoming heroes, they must be willing to put their lives on the line and continually push their limits. He warns that those who can't do so don't belong there, slamming his hand on the table to emphasize his point, indicating that they'll break if they lack the necessary resolve. The students sit in silence, and Callan wonders if he might have gone too far. Some students begin to cheer, prompting him to quip, "I can't hear you," echoing a SpongeBob quote. One of the teachers comments that the longer they teach at Lumen, the more the grand image of the swordmaster diminishes. Another announces a speech from the freshman representative, surprising the top scorers when Leo's name is called. When Leo looks up, he sees Albie on stage and wonders if he was the one who recommended him. Albie smiles at him as Leo approaches the stage, grabs a book, and addresses the professors and seniors, stating that the freshmen are now entering Lumen as proud members. Some students whisper that they've never heard of him and question why the representative isn't one of the top scorers. Leo notices Duran's annoyed expression. He closes the book, thanking them, and the teacher asks about his goals as the freshman representative. Leo smiles, sensing they might want him to rally those who nearly qualified instead of them. The teachers note that this freshman rep is well-behaved and a decent model student, suggesting it will be a calm ceremony. However, Leo surprises them by saying that if anyone wants his spot, they should try to take it from him. The reactions vary. Abad and Celia are incredulous, Chen looks surprised, while Walden and Duran remain visibly annoyed. Leo asserts that regardless of who they are, he will accept every challenge seriously. Later that day, they finally reach the dormitory. A man informs them that starting tomorrow, exploratory classes will commence for about a week. He explains that no matter their chosen major, they can take any class they like, which will help them decide on 3 subjects to focus on. He advises them to go to bed early to avoid being late for their first class. The students are seen heading into the dormitory, where Leo discovers he has room 302, with Carr as his neighbor. Carr expresses excitement about being side by side and tells Leo to sleep well. Leo replies that he'll see him tomorrow before entering his room, flopping onto the bed. He begins to reflect on what he hopes to achieve at Lumen, visualizing a grand pillar of rock in a vast library, as if the stars were the ceiling. He realizes that this represents his hero record, which he is eager to find. The next day, they are in the cafeteria, where Carr asks to join Leo for breakfast. Leo agrees, and they sit together, but someone else slams their food down at the table. It's Duran, who asks Leo if he meant what he said during the speech yesterday. Leo acknowledges that his words were provocative and admits it's true that a stranger picking a fight like that is unusual. Duran introduces himself as the captain of the Central Region, but both Leo and Carr ignore him, continuing to eat. Duran gets increasingly irritated, and a yellowish aura begins to emanate from him. When Carr looks up, he is shocked to see their table sent flying through the air by Duran's kick, along with all their food. Leo leaps from his seat, using his fork to catch his food midair, managing to reconstruct it into a cheeseburger. Duran remains furious, and Leo remarks that wasting food is unforgivable. Duran retorts that he'll bring Leo down from his high horse, irritated by someone weaker acting so cocky. At that moment, another student places a hand on both Duran's shoulder and Leo's, positioning himself between them. He expresses disbelief at their behavior, and Duran wonders when he arrived. Leo, feeling nervous, tries to defuse the situation. Duran comments that fighting on the first day at Lumen is serious and questions whether they can handle what's coming. The scene shifts to the exploratory class, specifically for the night department, where students are gathered outside with Duran. They call out to him, mentioning that class is about to start, while Celia looks around for Leo. We see Leo's hand on the door frame as he and Duran appear out of breath, with Duran looking more exhausted. Celia rushes over, asking what happened. Leo glances at Duran, who walks away in annoyance. Feeling a bit more relaxed about the situation, Leo announces that since everyone is present, he will begin the class. He introduces himself again, stating he's in charge of their first-year night studies. Duran glares at Leo, while Carr wonders if they're starting a war on the first day. Explains that the 3 powers derived from mana are magic energy, soul energy, and aura, noting that aura is the most challenging to handle. He asks if anyone knows why, and Celia chimes in, saying that aura loses its mana fluidity during the conversion process. Confirms her answer and elaborates that while magic and soul energy utilize mana in its natural state, aura absorbs and processes mana to suit the body. He then releases a chilly aura, asking if any of them can explain how to use the aura accumulated in their bodies. Celia suggests that aura just emerges after exerting some force, but Leo corrects her, stating that you can harness aura's power by burning mana. He confirms her answer and then asks Duran what the most important factor is when burning mana. Leo mentions stamina while noticing that Duran is still out of breath. Impressed, he asks if Duran has studied aura before, to which replies he hasn't. Smirks, finding it interesting that someone who hasn't properly studied could grasp its essence. He decides to set theory aside for now and suggests they all get some physical movement in. Demonstrates by putting aura under his feet, leaving the students in awe as he soars into the sky using aura step, something One Piece fans might recognize as Jeppo. He explains that the basic principle is to concentrate aura's power in your legs and showcases how to forcibly descend, emphasizing its endless potential applications. As class begins, some students struggle with aura step while others practice combat. Celia initially challenges Leo, saying she'll teach him how to do it if he calls her sister, trying to act prideful. Leo dismisses her, stating it shouldn't be too difficult. He notices Duran still staring at him, anxiously biting his thumb. Smirks and mentions the earlier commotion that morning. Chelsea wonders what's happening, while Carr sidles up to her, eager to explain. She asks what occurred and calls Duran and Leo forward. Questions Duran about his apparent anger, but Duran insists he isn't angry. Proposes a one-on-one running competition for the class representative spot on the track, allowing them to use aura without restrictions. Duran is surprised, thinking he has a serious advantage. Before the race begins, Carr tries to rally support, telling everyone to place their bets. He highlights Duran's prestigious background, referring to him as the master of lightning aura, and contrasts him with Leo, the dark horse from the outskirts who unexpectedly became the freshman representative. Other students remark that it seems Leo can't even use aura step, expressing their disdain and pointing out that while the captains have proven themselves, Leo has not. Declares that the first to cross the finish line wins, and regardless of the outcome, both must accept the results gracefully, calling it chivalry. As the race begins, Celia realistically notes that it's unlikely Leo will win, but acknowledges he has always exceeded expectations. She then gives the signal to go. As Leo and Duran take off, Duran uses his lightning aura and looks back, taunting Leo as a rookie. Other students cheer for Duran, calling him cool, while they criticize Leo, claiming his selection as the representative is a scam. Chelsea, the sole cheerleader, encourages Leo to do his best. Meanwhile, Duran quickly reaches the halfway point, and Carr realizes Leo is falling behind. As Leo runs, something catches his eye, causing him to stop abruptly and dash towards the wall. Celia exclaims in confusion at what Leo is doing. We see him activate his aura step, quickly scaling the stands in the arena. Turning around, he notices Duran already past the halfway mark. Leo begins to channel even more aura into the ground, crushing it beneath him, and then pushes off with tremendous force, creating an explosion. Duran watches in surprise as Leo uses the momentum from the blast to dart ahead, even starting to trash-talk him as he crosses the finish line. Leo slows down, leaving Duran stunned. With a smirk, Leo revels in the disbelief of the other students, who can't believe he beat Duran, known as the fastest among the first years. They comment on how Leo had reportedly never even learned aura step. Celia clarifies that it wasn't aura step, it was phoenix step. Carr and Chelsea are ecstatic about Leo's victory, while others analyze the race. They acknowledge Duran's use of lightning aura to boost his speed, which was impressive, but note that Leo, despite being slower, showcased superior control by gathering and focusing his aura into a single powerful step. Leo compliments Duran on a great match, mentioning that the outcome might have been different in a long-distance race. Duran, not wanting to be friendly, tells Leo to get lost, pondering that a true hero might finally emerge from the current generation's disciples. Chelsea rushes over to Leo, expressing her desire to train with him, while Carr feels overshadowed and wonders why she's only focusing on Leo. He then suggests they all head to a cafe, offering to pay. Leo apologizes but declines, saying he plans to listen in on summoning classes. Celia sighs, noting that Leo is unpredictable. As Leo walks away, he reflects on something that's been bothering him: why the Fairy King granted him a pledge as a reward. Typically, rewards in the hero's world are tied to the strength of the world's owner, yet his reward is related to summoning. Albi, his teacher, is a pure magician with no ties to summoning, so Leo would usually have received a magic-related ability instead. Additionally, to make a contract with a fairy, one must go to fairyland, making the reward currently impractical. Just then, a woman approaches, asking if he's there for the classes. When he turns, he sees East Captain Chen, who greets him warmly. He responds politely, using her full name, but she asks him to call her Xia instead. She expresses surprise that Leo, a student of the KN division, has an interest in summoning. Leo admits he's interested in spiritualism, and Shia notes they'll be seeing each other more often. Leo then asks if she can show him the spirit she's contracted with. She summons a small water spirit and asks if Leo can show his as well. He replies that he hasn't made a contract yet. Shia offers her help, saying he can call on her for advice about spirit summoning. Leo appreciates the offer and asks her age. She tells him she's 17 and mentions she knows he's 15. She comments on seeing him talking with Celia, and Leo remarks that she looks very young, possibly even younger than Chelsea. Shia stares at Leo, claiming he just thought of something rude, to which he quickly replies no. She expresses her admiration for his match against Duran, and Leo is surprised she saw it. Shia mentions she was in the crowd and hopes he'll accept her challenge one day. Leo laughs and agrees, and she smiles at him. At the exploratory summoning class, everyone gathers on a field or hill. Walden and another female student turn to glare at Leo and Shia. Leo asks if everyone is present, and Shia explains that summoning isn't very popular. He thinks that makes sense but wonders why the class is being held here. Suddenly, a massive black wyvern soars overhead, startling the students. One student falls to the ground in fear, and a woman comments that the wyvern is acting that way because it has taken a liking to him. She introduces herself, hopping off her dragon, and announces that she will be their summoning teacher for the year, Yura Marin. Some students express a desire to become her summon, while Dueno shows up, remarking on her beauty, comparing it to that of Luna and Lindy's. Leo humorously calls him a horny old dwarf, joking that not even death could stop his antics. Yura informs the students that their presence indicates they have potential as summoners, prompting them to cheer in agreement. She declares they will move immediately to the practice area and calls for Carlo, her assistant, as a griffin steps forward under his guidance. Yura instructs the students to pair up and select a griffin. One student hesitates, admitting it's his first time handling them and expressing doubt about his ability. Yura challenges his lack of confidence, saying that if he doesn't think he can do it, he should leave. She hops onto her black wyvern, which raises its wings and screeches into the air, taking off. Carlo urges everyone to hurry and follow her. Some students start playing with the griffins, finding them friendlier than they expected, while others struggle. Shia approaches Leo, asking if she can partner with him, and he tells her to do as she wishes. They begin soaring over the ocean on a sunny day, enjoying the refreshing breeze while following Yura. The students remark that they didn't expect to be riding griffins, but it makes sense at Lumen Academy. Everyone seems to be having a good time. Shia admits she was a bit worried, but the griffin is much gentler than she anticipated. Leo advises her to be cautious, as griffins can be challenging for first-time riders. She asks if that's true even for a kind griffin, but before Leo can explain, Yura takes a deep breath and blows a whistle from her wyvern. Suddenly, all the griffins lock their eyes as if ready to fight, extending their talons and screeching. The students are confused, wondering why the griffins were just calm moments ago. Yura questions whether they truly believe they can call themselves students of Lumen Academy if they can't handle a griffin, urging them to regain control. Shia's griffin begins to act up, and as she starts to lose her balance, Leo grabs her to steady her. He explains that griffins have a strong sense of pride and shouldn't be overpowered. Flustered, she asks what he's doing while he holds on to her. He places his hands over hers, instructing her to follow his lead as he commands the griffin to fly forward. They soar past Yura and Carlo, who remark that Leo's control isn't bad at all. Yura then asks Carlo if the first-class representative is a candidate for the Knight Major. Carlo confirms this, and she wonders if Leo might have a griffin at home, given his skill. Carlo replies that he comes from a non-noble household and doesn't own a griffin. Yura laughs, calling it pure talent and stating that she's found a little gem in Leo. They finally arrive at the practice grounds, known as the Island of Summons, where some students land directly on the beach. As Leo strolls around, he spots a piece of fruit and decides it looks good enough to eat. Just as he reaches for it, a feather drops onto the fruit, causing him to wonder what it is. Shia notices and asks what's wrong, to which Leo dismissively replies that it's nothing. He then removes the feather and feeds it to the griffin. Yura announces that they will be taking a practical exam, prompting questions from the students about what kind of class would hold an exam on the first day, especially during the exploratory period. Yura explains that compared to the other two majors, the path they walk is much more challenging. She asks if anyone truly believes that simply having control over mana is sufficient for summoning. To form a contract with a spirit, one needs spirit affinity, and to control summons, taming ability is essential. This is why the number of summoner heroes is significantly lower than that of the other two classes. However, she notes that compared to other heroes, summoners often achieve far more than the others could ever hope for, asking if that's not the reason they chose this path. The students agree. At that moment, a girl walks forward and asks what kind of exam it is. It's the same girl who had been glaring at Leo earlier with Walden. She introduces herself as Eliza Hergen, from a renowned family of summoner heroes in the north. Yura explains that, as the name of the island suggests, summoning is a form of weapon for summoners, and they will be testing their taming abilities. The task is straightforward: tame a summon in the forest and bring it back. Once they do that and form a contract, the summon will belong to them. Excited, the students rush into the forest. Eliza then calls out to Leo. When he turns, she mentions that rumors about him defeating Duran are spreading and asks if she can expect him to stay in the summoner class. Walden and Shia also watch, curious about his response. Leo heads off, stating he's doing his best. Eliza's expression shifts to one of annoyance. Yura observes that these students are likely to become key members of the first year as she watches them all put in their efforts. As Leo walks by, he overhears two guys discussing why he's venturing so deep into the forest. They decide to let him be, speculating that if he fails, he'll simply return to the Night Major. They wonder if he thinks summoning is easy. After a bit, Leo reaches into his pocket, pulls out the earlier feather, and releases his fiery aura, causing the feather to spark, ignite, and eventually burn away. He remarks that it's just as he suspected when he suddenly hears a loud noise behind him, but we don't see what it is yet. The scene shifts far from the school, where breakfast is being prepared. Leo's mother asks his father if he thinks Leo will be okay, to which he replies that it's only the first day of school and questions her worry. She admits he's probably right and that her concern is unwarranted. Meanwhile, the flames around Leo grow larger. She wonders what could possibly go wrong on the first day, but it turns out Leo has just summoned one of the three great summons, a phoenix. The phoenix wonders if Leo is the child of Reyna, noting that she can smell her flames. Leo asks if she knows his mother, and the phoenix confirms that she does, saying that if Reyna had a child, he would indeed be around Leo's age. She acknowledges a great debt to Reyna. We are introduced to Farina, one of the three mystical summons. Farina greets Leo, who returns the greeting and inquires about her connection to his mother. Farina explains that Reyna saved the life of her summoner, Ellen Lunda. Leo is surprised to hear Ellen's name. Farina recounts how Ellen was in danger while clearing a dungeon in Siren, having lost all her comrades. Just as she was about to lose her own life, Reyna appeared and saved her, but in the process, Reyna lost her blazing aura. Farina notes that if it hadn't been for that event, Reyna would have surely reached the seat of heroes. Leo realizes this is what his mother had mentioned previously and tells Farina that she has no regrets about her actions. Farina laughs, saying that's just the kind of knight she was. Curious, Leo asks what Farina is doing in Lumen. She replies that she can't disclose that information but asks if he's not a knight and what he's doing on the island. Leo explains that he's also taking summoning classes, which surprises Farina. Gazing at him, she says this feels like fate and notes that she can sense Kyle's soul in Leo. She mentions that she can finally repay the debt she owes Reyna, instructing Leo to reach out his hands. As fire envelopes his hand, it transforms into an egg. Farina explains that this is her child, and she hopes that one day, when Leo becomes a great summoner, they can form a contract together. She adds that it's unfortunate for the summoner originally meant to receive it. Leo asks if they can form the contract now. Farina, taken aback, warns him that he might lose his life and urges him to stop as he begins to channel his aura. However, she realizes it might be too late when she sees that he has lost consciousness. She remarks that his willingness to challenge the impossible without flinching reminds her of Reyna, wishing him luck. When Leo regains consciousness, he sees a flame surrounded by a golden string. He reaches out to touch it, only for it to start consuming his entire body. He screams in pain, struggling to breathe, realizing that this must be the phoenix flame. He understands that the burning pain is part of their existence, as phoenixes endure this every day, regenerating their flesh for eternity. He decides to join them on their journey. As the fire around Leo swirls violently, the egg begins to crack. Fully aware again, he sees the egg absorbing the heat he emits, floating into the air. Farina asks if he succeeded, and Leo confirms he did, though he appears exhausted. Farina laughs, calling him a genius and predicting he will become the world's greatest summoner. As the egg continues to crack open, she congratulates him on successfully forming the contract, revealing that the child's name is Fiora. Farina then transforms into a human, expressing her trust in Leo to care for her child. Leo looks at Fiora, wondering if it really is a phoenix since it resembles a little chicken. Fiora tilts her head and chirps, and Leo muses that it's definitely a chicken. Back at Yura, everyone is showing her their summons, and it's clear she's an animal lover. She then asks Carlo what time it is, and he replies that there are 5 minutes left, with only 4 students yet to return. Just then, a large bear charges towards them, and it's Xia, who asks if they're not finished yet. The bear looks proud as Xia boasts about taming an aqua bear cub. Suddenly, a shadow flies overhead, and as she dismounts from her bear, she looks up to see Walden returning with a shadow crow. Yura comments on how impressive that is, noting that even some in her family find it difficult to tame such creatures. She reminds him, however, that he hasn't made a contract with it yet, but reassures him that it's still more than enough. Then, chaos ensues as a giant snake, with Eliza on its head, slithers towards Yura. Eliza mentions she went ahead and contracted it since her family doesn't have one. Yura acknowledges that a Gorgon snake is excellent. Carlo then announces that time is up, which is perfect timing as he spots Leo emerging from the forest. The students start laughing when they see Leo with a little feathered creature on his head, joking about what kind of fool would go out there and tame a chicken. However, Yura quickly realizes what's happening and exclaims in disbelief that Leo has actually tamed a phoenix. Later that day at the academy, Leo stands in front of a door, adjusting his tie before knocking. Yura calls for him to come in, leaning against her desk. He mentions he heard she was looking for him, and she invites him to take a seat. Yura tells him it was her first time seeing a baby phoenix, noting that she didn't even know there was one on the island. She adds that a freshman contracting with a phoenix is unprecedented in the academy's history. Leo looks startled as she leans in closer, suggesting she might be going to prison. He gulps audibly, but Yura then declares that he is a summoning genius and hugs him. She expresses her desire to praise his achievement but insists that the fact he's made a contract with a phoenix should be kept secret for now, revealing it would cause quite a stir. She instructs him that when exploratory classes end, he needs to choose summoning as his major, as he has the talent to become a legendary summoner. Sometime later at the academy, Chloe yawns as she walks down the hallway, and Car comments that she'll tear her mouth if she keeps doing that. Embarrassed, she turns to him, and he notes that she seems tired. Chloe explains that she stayed up late reading magic books. Leo then reaches into his pocket, handing her something she dropped. She remembers bumping into him on the first day of school, feeling a bit embarrassed, and thanks him. Car asks Leo why he's attending magic classes, and Leo explains he wants to explore as many as possible during the exploratory period. Car mentions that since he's only interested in magic, he only attends those classes. He then introduces Chloe, who is glaring at Leo. Car comments that it's a bit cold in the room and stands up to move to the back, but a massive ice wall suddenly forms in front of him, stopping him in his tracks. Chloe encourages Leo to follow her to the front seats, saying that since he seems interested in the class, she'll help him. She drags him along, and Car quips that he might just have a chance. Suddenly, Chelsea calls out to Leo, and he turns in surprise to see her and Abad waving at him. The main door opens, and a voice introduces itself, saying it's nice to meet everyone attending the magic classes. The speaker, Liners, announces that he will be their magic teacher for the year. Before starting the exploratory class, he snaps his fingers, causing a magic circle to appear, and papers begin to fly around the room, landing in front of each student. Liners informs them that they will be taking a magic theory exam, leaving the students shocked at the prospect of a test on the first day. He explains that every class, except for the night major, has had a test, and that Lumen students should meet a certain standard to attend his class. After completing the exam, they are to hand their papers to his assistant, Anna, who waves and tells everyone she'll collect their exams. Leo wonders if this is the current trend in magic, questioning why it feels so complicated, akin to the new math being taught to kids. As everyone begins to write furiously, the hourglass continues to drain. After a while, some students find the exam easier than expected, but they struggle with the last question, having solved everything else. In contrast, Leo realizes he has only managed to answer one question. He regrets not learning more about modern magic before coming here. Nervously, he hands his paper to Anna and resolves to study magic on his own. As the clock hits 0, Liners remarks that magic has evolved significantly over the past century. What used to require a perfect understanding can now be utilized with mere memorization of conditions. He snaps his fingers, and the grades begin to materialize in front of the students. Liners notes that this development has lowered the overall skill level of magicians. He raises his hand, and a bright light forms in his palm, expanding to the ceiling to create a beautiful display resembling a solar system. Liners explains that this is the essence of the magic he has created, made from finish to start, and he wants them to become capable of researching and developing their own magic. This is why he administered the test in the first place. There were 49 questions worth 1 point each based on simple memorization, with the last question worth 51 points, designed to analyze the true essence of magic. He hopes everyone here can become a magician capable of solving it. Chelsea comments that it's no surprise the last question was the only one she couldn't answer, and she wonders if Leo gave up since he's no longer in his seat. Just then, Anna rushes up to Liners, excitedly telling him that one student solved the 50th question. He laughs loudly, looking around the room to find the student with a perfect score. Liners asks for the student to stand up, but Anna clarifies that it wasn't a perfect score, some other answers were missed while focusing on the last question. Liners expresses disappointment but still invites whoever it was to step forward. Anna clarifies that the student only solved the last question, surprising Liners, who asks for the student's name. Anna replies that it's Leo Plo. They urge Leo to stand up, but Car and Chloe note that he doesn't seem to be present. Chelsea explains that he actually left right after finishing the test, prompting Liners to question why he would do that. The scene shifts to a cafe, where Celia laughs heartily, mocking Leo for having only solved one question. She remarks that he summoned a chicken in class and couldn't manage more than one question in magic class, suggesting he should realize he's not cut out for this and focus on his swordsmanship since he's a knight major. Leo then asks if she'd like to join him for stamina training, but she quickly declines. We hear Liners say he sees Leo, and when Leo turns around in surprise, Liners asks if he's the one who mocked his class. He wants to know why Leo left after answering just one question, questioning if he thought the others were so easy that they weren't worth attempting. Liners gives off some intense vibes as Leo explains there's been a misunderstanding. He thought he had failed the test and found all the questions except the last one too difficult. Liners, taken aback, listens as Leo admits he only studied magic independently by reading old books, which left him unsure about modern concepts. Understanding dawns on Liners, and he lifts Leo into the air in excitement before setting him back down, leaving Leo bewildered. Liners encourages Leo to follow him, immediately dragging him away. Celia asks what the magical professor is up to, and Anna rushes in, asking if she saw Liners or if he did anything unusual. Celia mentions he was just there but suddenly grabbed Leo and took off. Anna wonders what he's up to this time, calling him crazy. We then see Liners erasing chalk from the board while writing new equations. He instructs Leo to solve these equations, stating that if Leo didn't solve the last question by pure luck, he must already have his own magic system in mind. Liners urges Leo to demonstrate, saying he'll see right through whatever Leo has. Moments later, Leo informs Liners that he solved everything. Liners is utterly astonished, asking if Leo truly solved all those questions in his head. Leo replies, kind of. Liners' eyes light up as he exclaims, finally. The scene shifts to the hallway, where Albie walks by with Liners, who is beaming with excitement. Alai looks on, appearing depressed and wondering what Liners is up to. Liners grabs Albie's leg, expressing his gratitude and joy. Albie lifts him into the air, commenting that he's seen Liners act out before but feels he's going too far today. Liners insists that Leo is a magic genius and praises the student Albie recommended as a complete genius as well. Confused, Albie points out that Leo is a knight. Liners declares that Leo must become a sorcerer at all costs, insisting he won't let his talent go to waste wielding mere metal sticks. Albie throws Liners back down, and Anna rushes in to catch him. Liners thanks her, but Anna looks furious, stating they need to return to class now and threatening to kill him one day. As Leo walks through the hallway, Albie spots him and smiles. Leo remarks that sorcerers haven't changed at all over time, they're all complete psychos. A week later, at the end of the exploratory classes, we find Leo on the roof reading a book titled Is Kyle, the Hero of the Beginning, Really a Fraud? He closes the book and sits on the ledge, deep in thought. We see three people rushing down the hallway, banging on Callan's door. It's Liners and Yura, exclaiming that this situation is unbelievable and urging Callan to take a look at Leo's plans to major in every single subject. In the background, Yura and Liners argue, insisting that Leo must be a knight, though they acknowledge that this is unprecedented in the entire academy. Callan laughs, saying it reminds him of a fictional hero, which prompts their curiosity. He explains that he's referring to the fifth great hero, also known as Kyle, who is the only master of all classes in history. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, Chelsea and Celia are seen running, prompting Car to wonder what they're up to on a weekend. Leo mentions that Chelsea asked him to train her. Car questions why they're running without their weapons, and Leo replies that there's something more important than weapons. Celia chimes in, stating it's their stamina. They both look exhausted, but Chelsea insists that stamina is crucial for a battle mage. She then tells Car to move over so she can sit beside Leo, expressing how nice it is to jog on a weekend and that she misses it. Leo asks if she's serious about running with him, prompting Celia to spit out her water, which Chelsea calls gross. Leo insists that if Celia is going to join him, they need to do it properly. Celia stands up and reiterates that she's not interested. Carr comments on their apparent closeness, admitting he initially thought they were dating. Celia clarifies that they're related and jokes that this isn't Alabama. Carr and Chelsea are surprised, realizing Leo is not abandoning her, though Celia explains there are some family circumstances involved. Leo sits up, asking if they should take this seriously while Chelsea looks pleased. Carr declares he's off to explore the city, but when Celia tries to join him, Leo pulls her away. Carr wonders why there aren't any dignified nobles in his life. It's now class assignment day, and all the students are curious about their placements. Leo walks into class 1 to 5, where Carr waves him over and asks if Leo already knew he was in this class. Carr laughs, claiming there's nothing he doesn't know. Leo mentions that Chelsea is also here, and they notice she's suffering from severe soreness due to her workout. Carr asks what Leo made her do, to which Leo replies it was just the basics. Chelsea complains she's never doing it again. Some students start mocking them, calling class 5 the class of anguish and speculating on how many will remain after the first semester, deeming them all pitiful. A man then asks what they find pitiful, stating that's how they appear in his eyes. As he approaches, he asks if they agree with him and instructs them to form a human chair. This is when we meet the professor of their class, known as the Wailing Wall, Herod Edmund. As the students comply, Herod walks forward and greets them, calling everyone worthless and declaring this class is for those who scored the lowest among incoming students. He asks if they've heard the rumors about him and wonders if anyone knows why he chose to teach this class. Carr guesses it's to help them improve their grades, but Herod retorts that it's a typical answer from someone who ranked dead last, expecting no less from Carr. He asks if no one in this inferior class embodies the qualities of a Lumen Academy student. Chelsea responds that it's about capturing the hero's world through practice missions. Herod agrees but states that all he sees are faces of individuals who would perish immediately upon entering a hero's world. He argues that it would be better to expel these pathetic beings who would only hinder their comrades and die in the process, which is why he has taken charge of this class and earned the nickname, the Wailing Wall. He then spots Leo at the back, noting that at least he might survive. Herod instructs everyone to change into their EXE uniforms and head to the drill grounds for the combat studies class. Once outside, dressed in their uniforms, Herod sets up an umbrella and chair, announcing that he will begin the class aimed at correcting their flawed mindsets. He questions what they believe will save them in real life when death is a constant threat. A student replies that it would be their fellow comrades, introducing a woman named Nella Carvin, who possesses a healing aura. Herod corrects them, stating that it's their own abilities that matter. When they hone their skills to shine through danger, only then can they think about helping others. He then asks Nella if she is confident in her ability to protect her comrades. Another student raises her hand, expressing confidence as well. Herod laughs, challenging her to demonstrate her skills as a magical knight by creating a fireball. The student, Ilana Lidden, who is a dual class user, successfully conjures a fireball. Herod questions if that's all she can do, doubting she could even harm an ant with it. Ilana responds by adding more mana to create 2 massive fireballs, scorching the ground beneath her. Herod acknowledges her improvement, asking if she wants to try hitting a little fellow as a fairy spirit appears, playfully sticking out its finger and laughing as it taps Ilana on the nose. Frustrated, Ilana throws her fireballs at the fairy, but it dodges effortlessly. Herod questions the point of increasing the number of fireballs if she can't hit anything with them. He emphasizes that what they all lack is the ability to use their skills effectively and that they need to push beyond their limits. He warns that this class will not end until they catch the spirit, urging them to draw out all their abilities. Leo remarks that while Herod's words may be harsh, they are true. He asks if he should give it a try as well. Herod watches him with anticipation, wondering if Leo is just full of nonsense like the fictional hero Kyle or if he genuinely aspires to be a master of all classes. Meanwhile, the little spirit flutters around, making everyone look foolish. Leo begins to imbue aura into his feet and dashes forward at incredible speeds, determined to catch the spirit. Chelsea wonders why the spirit is so fast, and Carr questions how they're supposed to catch it. They notice Leo running, utilizing aura step to float through the air as he chases after the spirit, which seems to be enjoying itself as it embarrasses the other students. The spirit notices Leo behind it and swiftly evades his first strike. Leo smiles as he begins to imbue aura into his hand, shooting out a stream of energy that chases the sylph. Suddenly, a yellow blur darts in front of him. It's Duran, who grabs hold of the sylph and turns back to Leo, still holding on to her. A man starts clapping, commenting that it seems Class 1 is in for a lesson. This is their homeroom professor, Sejin. Herod asks if that means Sejin will take over his class, casually sipping his drink. It's revealed that Sejin ranked second in the graduating class, while Herod was first, a fact that Sejin resents. Carr notes that this might lead to a clash of two pillars, explaining that both professors have been at Lumen for over 20 years and that Yura and Liners were apprentices to them. Nella asks how Carr knows all this, and he sheepishly claims he's just quick to gather information, while Chelsea cringes at his awkwardness. Sejin laughs, saying he didn't realize Herod was plotting something. He conjures an orb in his hand and proposes a competition between classes 1 and 5, suggesting they use Lumen's historic ball sport, botra. Herod is surprised, calling Sejin a genius, and agrees that learning through experience is best. Sejin confidently asserts that his class will probably win, but Herod shrugs it off, saying he doesn't care and will continue teaching. Sejin wonders why he keeps losing the graduating class vote to Herod. Herod then declares that he'll give them a chance to practice their skills with a botra match against Class 1, standing up and stating that all of them will be expelled if they lose. The students are shocked by this announcement. Nella asks if he's serious, pointing out that it's only their first class, and Eliana reminds him that Class 1 has 3 captains. Herod insists they should strive even harder to surpass their limits, questioning what there is to fear when their freshman representative is already part of their class. He tells Leo to choose 6 representatives to join him for botra. Leo senses that this is a test. Herod's disdain for him is evident. He notices that some students have already lost their spirit after just a week at Lumen Academy, and he understands that Herod likely wants him to lead the Class 5 students, who are acting defeated. This could be an opportunity to boost their morale. We see Duran and Celia in Class 1 while Chelsea and Carr are in Class 5. Leo asks why everyone looks so scared. Chelsea explains that he might not have heard of botra before, but it's a combat sport and a long-standing tradition at Lumen. Leo thought it was just a game, but Carr clarifies that, while it may seem that way, it's actually quite dangerous. Celia teasingly calls out Chelsea, asking why she looks so frightened, suggesting she's already resigned to defeat. Chelsea retorts that she's not scared and insists she would never lose. Leo wraps an arm around Chelsea and Carr, declaring that their class will not be defeated by Class 1. Celia declares that she's going to demonstrate the results of her special training. Meanwhile, Chloe states confidently that she will not lose this time. Sejin instructs the participants from each class to head to the arena, and Leo asks who will accompany him. Chelsea and Aliana step forward, determined to put Class 1 in their place. Aliana asserts that if losing means expulsion, she'll channel her anger into winning, ready to show Professor Herod what she can do. Nella and another boy from the class also step up, and Leo decides that the last spot should go to Carr. When Carr questions this, Leo doesn't give him a chance to respond and informs Sejin that Class 5 is ready. Sejin approves and lightly tosses the ball into the air, only to launch it high above everyone's heads. The spectators watch in anticipation, some feeling confident about their victory. With a loud announcement, Sejin signals the start of the match. Both Duran and Leo leap into the air, utilizing their aura, but Duran's longer reach allows him to snag the ball before Leo. He lands back on the ground, harnessing his lightning aura, and Sejin notes that Class 1 has made the first move. Leo jumps back to his side and asks one of his classmates, named Tide, to explain the rules to him. Tide clarifies that the rules of botra are simpler than Leo might think. He needs to infuse the ball with aura and shoot it into the goal without using his hands or feet. The first team to score 11 points wins. We learn that Tide, Marcoa, is part of the summoning department, making an earlier Hogwarts joke resonate more. As they prepare, someone yells for them to get ready, and we see Duran clenching his fist with lightning aura crackling. Carr gets ready to defend the goal as Duran punches the ball forward, sending it soaring straight toward Leo. Leo dodges to the side, and the ball ricochets off the ground, cracking the floor before heading into the goal behind Carr. Class 1 cheers for Duran, while Class 5 looks despondent. Tide comments that it seems the professor might expel them all, and Leo asks how they can regain possession of the ball. Tide explains there are 3 ways to do so: when the ball goes out of bounds during the opponent's turn, when they catch the ball, or when. But before Tide can finish, Nella shouts at Leo to dodge. Both Leo and Tide turn just in time to see the ball hit Ilana squarely in the chest. Celia mocks them, telling them to stop chatting and focus on the match. Tide explains that they can't directly attack or block opposing players, adding that the third way to regain possession is if someone on their own team is incapacitated. The only way to attack in that case is with the ball itself. Leo thanks Tide for the explanation, picks up the ball, and states that it's his turn. On the match status board, we see that Ilana is now listed as incapacitated, along with several other names from Class 1, such as Howl, Ruth, and Kane, who will become relevant later. The teachers observe the match, and Sejin, lost in thought, reflects that players with highly destructive fire attributes have a significant advantage in botra. Among the human houses, the flames of Zinger are the most powerful. Despite knowing Celia is in his class, he accepted the challenge, though he feels it will be incredibly difficult for him to win. Herod yawns, prompting Sejin to tell him to try speaking like a normal person. Herod asks if Sejin remembers his first student, the kid from the house of Zinger. Sejin replies that he certainly does, referring to her as the Empress of Botra. He's talking about Reina. Herod informs him that the child of that very empress is now in his class, surprising Sejin. Back with the other students, they're already resigning themselves to defeat, questioning how they even got into Lumen Academy. They can't believe things are ending so easily, but they're suddenly taken aback by a burst of fire. Celia observes that it seems Leo has finally made up his mind, as he unleashes his phoenix breath aura. She warns everyone to be cautious of his next move. Leo pulls back his fist and hurls the ball directly toward the goal. As it hurtles forward, Chloe manages to create a large ice wall to block it, claiming that as long as she's here, scoring will be impossible. Leo corrects her, stating that she means possible, as he's already positioned right behind her. He leaps into the air, the ball still ablaze against the ice wall, and punches it, shattering the wall and sending the ball straight into the goal. Sejin comments on Leo's impressive battle IQ, while Herod looks smug. The crowd erupts in cheers for Leo, and Sejin realizes this is where the real game will begin. Celia takes her turn, aiming for a goal, but Carr blocks it with an earth wall. Chelsea retaliates, sending her own ball into play. Later, we see Tide get hit in the stomach by Duran's ball, and another unnamed student from Class 1 gets struck by Leo. Chloe prepares for another attack, but we don't see it. Instead, Duran charges up the ball, preparing to aim for the goal. He throws it directly toward Carr, who sees it zigzagging toward him. Carr extends his hand, allowing himself to be electrocuted to stop the goal, landing on his feet and laughing, noting that his mana is already dwindling and he'll leave the rest to Leo. Both Chelsea and Aliana pull him out of the field, and the score is now 10-10, with Leo facing off against Duran, Celia, and Chloe. Leo picks up the ball, and the students realize they're at a disadvantage, facing a 1 versus 3 situation. Chloe states that while she may have lost in the magic theory exam, she won't lose this time, as she creates multiple clones of herself. Leo crouches down, and both Celia and Duran declare they're ready. A wind attribute surrounds Leo's feet, making him vanish before their eyes. They're shocked, exclaiming they can't believe he's so fast. His magic also leaves behind clones, and he dashes past Celia, who realizes he isn't even attempting to attack, he's solely focused on scoring. Chloe wonders where the real Leo is, dismissing the clones as shallow illusions. Suddenly, she's taken aback as she witnesses the true nature of his magic. The world looks different through a magician's eyes, and she's so astonished that she just sits there as Leo races past her. Feeling like a frog in a well, she wonders how he's using the magic of the stars, which is typically reserved for elves. Leo scores the goal, making Class 5 the winners of the botra match, and the crowd begins chanting his name. Students start crying and hugging each other, expressing their fear of going home and the dread of being expelled. Sejin asks what they're talking about, while Herod remarks that it was merely his way of motivating them. In contrast, Duran, Celia, and Chloe all appear incredibly dejected. Sejin sighs and walks over to Chloe, asking if she's upset about her loss. He tells her that after a match, regardless of the outcome, it's important to salute her opponent. As he helps her to her feet, he reminds her that everyone worked hard together for a Class 1 victory and that all the supporters are proud of their efforts, so they should stand tall and feel proud. The students are taken aback by Sejin's unexpected kindness, while Herod mocks him, calling him a loser and urging him to wrap things up. Sejin, feeling aggressive towards Herod, begins a speech acknowledging the efforts of both classes. He praises Class 1 for showcasing their skills and commends Class 5 for their perseverance, as they push through challenges to understand their limits and succeed. He encourages everyone to shake hands, and they do just that. Celia tells Chelsea that she lasted longer than she expected, thinking she'd be out sooner. Chelsea agrees, saying she thought Celia was incredibly tough. Meanwhile, Carr laughs and calls Duran Prince, who only glares back without replying. Carr wonders if he may have overstepped. Chloe, holding back tears, hears Leo commend her for an awesome match, adding that with more experience, she'll become incredible. She questions if he's joking, but his sincere smile reassures her. She vows to beat him someday and shakes his hand. A month later, Carr asks Chelsea and Leo which club they plan to join. Leo announces he wants to start his own club, causing Carr to spit out his food in surprise as Chelsea scolds him for his manners. Chelsea decides she wants to join Leo's club, which he names the Hero Research Society. When they ask about its purpose, Leo explains he wants to learn more about the legendary hero Kyle. They laugh, noting that Kyle is fictional. Carr doubts anyone will join Leo's club, but Chelsea expresses her willingness to join him. Suddenly, some students rush to the window, announcing that the fifth-year students have returned from clearing a hero dungeon. They explain that fragments of hero records are scattered worldwide, and from time to time, monks generate dungeons known as hero dungeons. The seniors from Lumen are tasked with clearing these dungeons to retrieve the fragments, often being away for at least 2 weeks, sometimes longer. Reflects that his mother likely faced similar challenges. Chelsea is in awe as they see the impressive figures of the returning seniors. Carr clears his throat and identifies them. The muscular Easterner at the front is Senior Lim Mua, the southern woman beside him is Senior Trua Yen, and the pale figure in the hoodie is Senior Ulta. However, he notices someone else is missing. Just then, a hand rests on Leo's shoulder, and Carr mentions the man standing at the top of Lumen. The student council president, Rees, is missing, and when they turn around, they notice Leo has vanished. They see Celia leading him away, and he questions what's happening, commenting that it's all quite sudden. She informs him they need to go to Lamaria City because the student council president wants to meet him. Leo asks why he's looking for him, and Celia sighs, noting that he seems uninterested in school matters, but he'll find out once they arrive. They eventually reach a restaurant, and Celia expresses confusion about why he chose such a place. Leo, however, is excited about the good smell. Her face brightens as she rushes over to hug her older brother, who introduces himself as Riedinger from the Night Division, the current student council president. As they eat, Rees asks if everyone is enjoying the food. Leo confirms they are, but notices Celia is acting strangely. She admits it's her first time trying this type of cuisine, hesitantly takes a bite, and exclaims how delicious it is. Leo mentions he wanted to bring her here once she arrived at Lumen and expresses disbelief that Rees is his aunt's son. Rees asks if he's met Reina before, and Leo recalls seeing her a few times during his childhood, noting her popularity in school. Leo inquires about her legendary exploits, and Rees recounts a famous incident where Reina rallied students to confront the principal about terrible dormitory desserts. Celia is amazed to learn that their aunt was the protagonist of that story. They continue chatting and finish their meals, with Leo remarking that Rees truly deserves the title of strongest in Lumen, hinting that he's on track to become a hero. Rees then offers to get dessert, and Celia eagerly agrees. He tells them to wait outside while he steps away to grab his wallet. As he does, he notices a fragment resonating in his pocket, puzzling over its significance. The scene shifts to a silent classroom where Ilana approaches Professor Herod for help. He mockingly invites her to ask her pathetic questions. Ilana wonders why a class representative hasn't been chosen, noting that other classes have already decided. Tide confirms he has heard this too, and Herod admits he forgot, suggesting Leo take on the role. Leo remains unresponsive, leading Ilana to question if that's truly all it takes. Tide proposes a democratic vote for the selection, but Herod dismisses it, dumping a stack of papers on his desk for the representative to sort. Ilana realizes what's happening and resigns herself to the task. An announcement comes over the intercom, stating that a joint class for hero studies will soon begin, instructing all first-year students to head to the auditorium. Leo notes they should get ready, prompting Herod to commend him as class representative. Everyone heads outside, where Carr spots Chloe looking exhausted. She asks if he has any fatigue recovery potions for sale. He hands her the ones he has, and Leo comments that the year has just started and she seems to be overexerting herself. She drinks the potions quickly and wipes her mouth, insisting that she's fine as she walks away. Carr remarks that she's in the magic theory class for a reason, while Chelsea notes that Chloe must feel anxious. If Leo picks up on the latest magic trends, he might outpace her in the magic theory exam. Carr wonders what's wrong with being second, and Chelsea calls him foolish, emphasizing that while she's a battle mage and doesn't mind falling behind in theory, magic investigation and research are crucial to the Sorcerer's Tower, and her pride is at stake. She questions if Carr is even a real sorcerer. Carr responds that he uses magic to survive, claiming that substance magic is his pride. As they bicker in the background, Chloe hears them but decides to walk away. The scene shifts to Callan's office, where he's tending to a plant when something causes him to freeze. It turns out the damaged hero's page has reacted. We then see Reese place the hero's page in front of Callan, who asks if it's true that it reacted. Reese confirms it, noting that the page is so damaged it shouldn't have responded, yet it did, and there was no relic nearby at the time. Callan decides to investigate further but tells Reese to rest since he just returned. He then calls for Elena, his assistant, asking her to take the page to the auditorium for the first year's joint class. Callan explains that sometimes even small fragments react, particularly if the person who recorded it in the hero records comes into contact with it. This may be a page from Kyle's book. The The scene transitions to the auditorium, where a woman is trying to quiet the crowd. We meet Professor Arshien near, who grows increasingly frustrated as the noise continues. She releases a menacing aura, warning that if they don't quiet down, they'll regret it. When one student shakes his head in fear, she threatens to come down and deal with him. Once the room finally quiets, she shifts back to a calm demeanor, thanking everyone while waving her hands. Some students express their fear, commenting on how intimidating she is. Leo observes that she's a spiritualist, noting they were rare even in his previous life. Arshien announces that they will begin the joint hero studies class, explaining that the appearance of hero records is linked to the emergence of hero clans. To open a hero's world, an object closely related to that hero is required. It's easier for a hero's descendant to access this world, which is why Lumen Academy, which preserves hero records, has a strong connection to these families. Although she dismisses it as political nonsense, she refers to it as a relationship between a key and a treasure chest. Leo appears intrigued, while Carr, clearly disinterested, is asleep, hinting that he might be a returner. Elena then enters alongside Artin and continues by asking if everyone understands the significance of hero studies. She explains that these studies help uncover clues for clearing a hero's world or learning more about them. As they approach their senior year, they'll select a hero to inherit strength from and aim to clear that hero's pages. Elena holds up the earlier page, prompting Artin to reach for it, noting that it's a hero fragment returned by the fifth-year students of Lumen. The students express their excitement as she briefly opens it, teasing them before closing it again. She instructs everyone to share their aspirations as heroes. Celia states her desire to become a knight who surpasses her family's legacy, to which Artin responds positively. Chloe mentions she wants to write a spellbook featuring only her original spells. Carr expresses his wish to support heroes, and Artin commends his goal. When it's Leo's turn, he declares his ambition to completely annihilate Erebus. This surprises both Artin and Carr, along with the professors. Artin praises the ambition, asking what his next goal is, leading to laughter as others suggest he's dreaming too big for a freshman. Sejin asks Herod for his thoughts, and Herod remarks on the chilling nature of Leo's statement, noting that Erebus has been sealed for millennia and has caused disasters upon resurrection. Despite that, Leo still dreams of eradicating it. Artin explains that they will read the hero records page retrieved from the dungeon. After each class, they'll guess which hero's page it is and learn how to clear a hero's world. She warns that all professors will be observing, so they shouldn't misbehave. The students' hearts race with excitement, and Nella eagerly mentions it's her first time interacting with a hero record. Then, Arain calls for the class representatives to step forward. Celia, Leo, Abad, and Shia all approach. She informs them that 2 hero records were recovered, but only one will be used for the lesson. While showing them the smaller piece, she invites Leo to choose one. Upon picking it up, it emits a golden aura, and texts begin to float around the room, surprising Leo. It announces that the hero record is now open and shines even brighter. As a giant magic circle forms beneath Leo and Artin, Sejin is taken aback by the sudden shift, and the students gaze in awe at the ominous sight of a complete battlefield, reminiscent of the scene they witnessed when facing Erebus. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. Feel free to leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts or suggestions. If you want to stay updated on our latest uploads, click the notification bell icon. And hey, why not check out some of our other videos popping up on the screen right now? If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It really means a lot. Peace.